Betsy.
All right, good evening. This is October 21st meeting for the FinCom. Tonight we're going to go through the warrant recommendations that we did not vote on last week. We're going to talk about the all-day budget session on November 15th with the different department heads. We have some possible reserve fund transfer requests and the other things from our finance director, an update, 2015 budget, and moving forward to the 2016 budget process. Talk about the TIF update and policies and procedures, but we don't really have a whole lot there except for when we're going to meet. So that's the action-packed agenda for tonight. Could be some interesting topics. So should we just get started with the warrant items that are still open? Okay.
I did provide you with a copy of the warrant that was sent out today.
I've got it available.
Okay.
This one.
That's my other one, to know which ones we voted on, which ones we didn't.
Well, Article 2 is the first, you have voted to recommend Article 1, the $315 unpaid bill. So the first article that you've not adopted a recommendation on is Article 2. And at the previous meeting, you were reviewing the list of proposed transfers and had a question about whether the proposed use of $27,916 from the short-term debt budget violated the policy that says we don't spend debt service funds for the operating budget. And Bonnie has prepared a memo. Bonnie and Steve Venuti together prepared a memo, which we, I think, forwarded on.
I did, and it's in your packet. It's right behind the warrant. And I apologize, I should have clarified that in the beginning, but the short-term debt account is separate from long-term debt. Under both the Department of Revenue definitions and under our financial policies, the debt service account is for long-term bonded debt. So it's debt that we've already placed. We have a repayment schedule over however many years, and we're paying principal and interest annually. That debt service, as it declines, is not allowed to roll back into the operating budget. And we use that to fund any other capital or one-time projects. And we have been doing that for a number of years. Short-term debt is defined differently under the Department of Revenue's Municipal Finance Glossary, and I provided you that link to it. But it is for short-term debt. It's not a principal repayment. It's a 1 year or less term for debt used primarily for us for roadway planning or bonding the track, for an example. We didn't bond it. We actually banned it over a few years and just eliminated it. Or any other short-term issuance. As it is by its nature, it fluctuates annually. It depends on what we have for roadway planning, how many roads we have, in the works, and when the design projects are ready to go, or any other projects that we're planning for. So it changes quite a bit annually, and we fund it as one of the first items that we fund in the budget. We've recognized some, both from market and from our bond rating, some savings in the short-term debt accounts just by our rating being improved. The market's really good for us right now. The roadway projects are not as heavy as we had anticipated, so the $27,000 that we're proposing here is not a problem, and it would not be in violation of the long-term debt reductions being captured and used for capital. So I should have clarified that, at the onset, but.
I guess from a budget standpoint, when the fiscal 2015 budget for short and long-term debt was prepared, if we could have adjusted it downward at some point to say, well, we're going to get, now that we're AAA instead of AA, chances are that our debt service, our debt cost will be less, and so therefore we need not appropriate so much in the beginning. So that's where the savings comes from.
So is there more flexibility in short-term debt than there would be in health insurance?
For this year, I mean, it changes in any given year based on enrollment. The health insurance budget, we won't know the enrollment until We go through the open enrollment period in April and May. And when the
Really?
teachers...
Is that late?
Yeah, we do ours in April and May. So that's kind of when we know what we're gonna face for cost. And then when the teachers come on in September, there's always a lot of changeover for that. I think right now, everything is kind of leveling off. We're getting the bills in. And there might be some flexibility, but we haven't received the full,
That's usually where we have the big savings, though, right?
yeah, typically.
And that would be the only other place we could take 27,000 from.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate your memo, and Bonnie, thank you for doing that. And I also understand the difference between short-term debt and debt service. But those distinctions aren't made in our financial policy. In fact, there's no separate treatment of short-term debt in here that I could find. So the real references here are to, exactly what it says there, non-revenue supported debt service from inside the levy limit roll, blah, blah, blah. We know the rest of the language. Earlier on under the, the debt management, which is more or less the explanatory opening paragraphs, there's no mention of, of it being specific to bonded either. It's just debt service. So to say, well, oh no, this is only talking about the bonded debt service, well, I'd accept that if there was some other language somewhere else that spoke to the short-term debt, but there isn't. I have no doubt that these are the correct definitions, from the DOR, but it's not, if we need to clarify our language in the financial policy, then maybe we need to do that. But in the interim, along the lines of what Chris suggested, I think the appropriate place, if we're going to make a change at this time, just so we don't call into question our own financial policies, is perhaps something that's pretty understood, like the insurance, which could easily, at the May special, be replenished if need be, right? I mean, isn't that
Yes.
a way of doing it?
Sure. No harm, no foul.
Right, and then we can, be purer than Caesar's wife on the whole question of,
Calpurnia, was that?
from what I hear, she was pretty darn pure, but,
Well,
Moving right along.
and she rendered unto Caesar what was Caesar.
No, I would agree with that. I think that the financial policies do need to firm up the language on that.
well, then how about the other, the second half of that, in the interim, just changing the funding source for it?
I
and-
think that that's totally
That's fine.
appropriate.
Yeah, so let's do that, we'll make that change, and we'll make it tonight, because this goes to the
Right.
publisher as soon as I go back upstairs.
You're assuming your board will accede on that?
We're fine with,
Okay, good.
we want to be on the same page as the finance.
And by the way, well, even though I raised the question, it never caught my eye until, whatever it was, last week, and I'm sure nobody
Yeah.
had anything in mind other than just it was an available funding source. That's, I
Yeah.
don't, not,
And if we,
Pointing fingers
and
at
if we
anybody.
don't need it, it becomes free cash.
Free cash,
So-
right.
Right, it's just.
There you go.
Okay, so the account number for the other one then is what, for the health?
194.
194. So that total amount would be 61,068 to be taken out of 194. So it's minus 61,068.
Yeah.
And we'll strike.
So line 720 just goes away, right?
Yeah, we'll strike line 720. And Bonnie will just have to give me the revised.
I will too.
Okay. Somebody like to make a motion with that adjustment?
I'd make a motion that we recommend Article 2 as reflecting the change in the funding source language.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Next is Article 3, where we have three capital projects: master plan update, elder and human services needs assessment, and fuel facility replacement. You heard a presentation by the elder and human services director and indicated your support of the $35,000 for her project. And the question you had was regarding the fuel facility replacement and what was the total project cost, and would the $212,000 requested cover it? The total project cost would not be covered fully by 212, as Bonnie's new information provides. The total amount that we would need is $248,388 for a total project cost of $548,388 because $300,000 is committed to the project by the electric light commissioners. So,
Excuse me, and the light commissioners have reaffirmed that after
they have
Sabbath
reaffirmed,
slept?
they have reaffirmed that it's $300,000 and not a penny more.
Okay, but they have since Sabbath.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So the proposal that we have is to move the money between projects A and C, and the article total would be the same, $297,000 for the three projects. We would want to increase the fuel facility project to the total of $248,388 and reduce the master plan update from $50,000 down to $13,612. The master plan update has yet to commence. We have $100,000 on account already. The hope was that we would be able to put some significant amount in addition at the November town meeting. Our goal is $250,000. The announced goal that we said to voters last May is we need $250,000 to update the master plan. We asked for $100,000, they gave it to us. We wanted to ask for some more, for all that we could, frankly, at the November town meeting, and we'll be back, I hope. We haven't prejudged the capital plan for the coming year, but we certainly expect to be back to next May's town meeting to ask for more funds for that project. The master plan update will not miss a beat as a result of having only $13,000 instead of $50,000. It won't. So, but we would miss a beat if we don't fully fund the fuel facility, and so the plan is to fully fund it. If we get this appropriation on the 12th of November, we would vote on the 17th of November, the Board of Selectmen would, to award the bids that are in hand to do the project. So,
At the time that this was crafted, we hadn't received all the engineering estimates for construction oversight and everything, so we've received them now, and that's why the difference is with this.
And we're going to fund the master plan at the annual? We're going to put 100 towards that at the annual?
we don't know what number yet.
I thought we had 250. I thought 250 was the number going around.
We've already put 100 in.
Yeah,
Put 100.
250. We already have, with this, we would have 113. So I'd need about the same.
137, right? What are you going to 250? Is that what we're going to aim for? Or?
Well, what we will know by May is we will have prepared a request for proposals, issued it, reviewed consultants, and we'll have real live bids. So we would know what
Adjust
the
it then.
additional amount is that we need by then.
Any other questions, or somebody want to make a motion?
That's Article 3. I'll move Article 3 as reflected in the most recent numbers.
Move to recommend.
Move to recommend. Thank you.
All's in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next one that you have not adopted, the next financial article you've not adopted a recommendation on is Article 6, which is the proposal to place $200,000 in 15 Great Road mitigation funds into the Community Preservation Fund Recreation Reserve. The Board of Selectmen voted last night unanimously to support Article 6 as presented. That is to put a total of $200,000 into the Community Preservation Fund. The reason the board did that, and the timing may have been fortuitous. We've been talking a lot about the turf, the synthetic turf projects. Last night we were also talking about the need for replacing playground equipment at 300 King Street, the castle and the trees. We had the commitment from the Littleton Children's Fund that they would work on a fundraising effort to go after money for a project which the initial estimate is about $250,000 for replacement. You can do a $500,000 version, but what Park and Rec was talking about is they could, replace it in kind for about $250,000. There was the commitment to undertake a private fundraising effort in town, and the suggestion was made from the back of the room that Jeff Behan from the Community Preservation Committee suggested that, well, why don't we put for the private fundraising that's done for that project, why don't we put it also in the Community Preservation Fund at a future town meeting, so you get 25% or 35% reimbursement rate, whatever it might be. Great idea, great idea. So without earmarking the funds for a particular project, just saying, do we have $200,000 worth of recreation projects in Littleton that's worth putting mitigation funds aside and getting state matching funds between $50,000 and $70,000? The board said yes, we do. So this is so the board took the recommendation to support Article 6. They didn't vote on any other articles last night, but just this one.
Keith, you mentioned there was a cap on that community. What's the amount? What's the max you can put in?
400. Our practical cap is that a community that has a surcharge of at least 1%.
Right.
Is allowed to put in the equivalent of another 2% into, up to
2%
the equivalent of the
Levy.
surcharge,
2%
of the levy
okay.
surcharge. And so, for us, the 1% is equal to about 200,000, a little more than 200,000. That's 1%. So we are able to add in 2 and 2 equals $400,000 a year. If we put in, say, 500,000, we'd only get matching funds on the first 400. So if we had 500,000, what I would recommend is we put 4 in 1 year and 1 in the next year. In fact, if for example, the funding sources that are called for here, one of them we've got, there's 100,000 from the Orchard subdivision mitigation that the planning board earmarked for recreation purposes. So that's one. But we also had another $250,000 that we've received and is on account with no restrictions. And so we're proposing to take 100 of that 250 and put it in. There's no reason why for next year we couldn't take and we've had no discussions about it, but you could look at the additional 150 that's sitting there and move it into the Community Preservation Fund next year to be eligible for state matching funds. So we could, and we can be looking for those opportunities as they come up.
What's preventing us from doing it this year?
Because we haven't had the discussion yet. That 200, the reason 200,000 is what's in the warrant.
Right.
And so that's the limit for what we're going to do at this town meeting. And the 200 in Article 6, where did we come up with that number? We came up with it because that's the amount requested in Article 7.
Yeah, someone just came forward, right.
So we didn't have a discussion, we didn't have a further discussion about, do we want to find all the 400,000? I will say, though, that prior to Article 7 coming up for the turf fields, the position that we were taking was we don't need to decide, we get until June 30th to decide what you put in. And so we could actually have a long conversation this winter, if we wanted to, about whether we wanted to find all 400,000 and put it, and have the May town meeting vote to put 400,000 in.
The May special.
Yeah, so that would be in for this year. And we were prepared to do that and have it, but then this other request came up. We wanted to identify a funding source, and we got into it. But we can continue the discussion in May about whether and to what extent the other 200,000 could come.
We also need to get these policies nailed down.
Yes, right.
Before we put more money in, we have to understand what is the
Exactly,
How are we gonna
and that's
spend
part,
it?
and that's part of that
Yeah, I mean,
conversation
their
with
whole-
CPA.
there needs to be a lot more in writing about what their process is for, prioritization, selection, how they integrate with the budget process, et cetera.
And just one of the issues that we're exploring right now is the degree to which the revenue source can be earmarked. We know that the CPC, the committee, is the gatekeeper of taking money out. There's some indication from the Department of Revenue that the revenue source can also indicate what restrictions are on the money as it goes in. So, for example, if we wanted to do a fundraising effort with the playground folks, we would really need to give a high-level assurance to them that the idea of putting it in the Community Preservation Fund for the purpose of the playground was actually how it was going to come out.
Right.
So or else.
I know it's not relevant to CPC, but I've seen in other towns where they've had these sort of concerns with, development project paying for a certain town need. They would have the first vote to expend on the warrant predicated on the funding which falls in the second bill, second article that comes. So, I mean, those kind of mechanisms.
Yeah, I think we'll need to be looking at those things, but it's the reason why we want to have a large discussion with the Community Preservation Committee about, what, this is new ground for us because we've never had discretionary funds that could go to them for the purpose of of expanding the base for the state match and then coming out. That we could avoid the CPC altogether by just taking the mitigation funds and appropriating them directly,
Or we lose
and
money.
then we lose the matching funds, and so that doesn't make any sense.
And
So-
all indications are that funding from the state is going to continue for almost seems a little too good to be true. You can just put this money in and come back out.
There is no,
Yes.
there is no guarantee on, I'm
There's no
sure.
guarantee, but it's a very popular topic. There was language, I haven't seen the number yet for the, I don't know if the DOR has issued the reimbursement rate for.
Not yet.
For.
Well, it only
usually
matters
come-
to us on a year-to-year basis.
No, honestly,
Yeah,
that was just.
yeah. No, I mean, usually it
I'm
comes in
just
October.
curious.
Yeah, but I mean, it's-
General information, yeah.
Yeah, a year ago, there was legislation that had a one-time increase in the state match, so the match was 50% a year ago. The way that it passed in the legislature this year is that there will be an additional amount, an incremental amount above the standard 25%. However, the amount of that increment depends on how the budget closed, whether there's a surplus left over from the last fiscal year. I guess they haven't quite calculated they haven't netted that out yet. But once they do, it will be announced what the reimbursement rate is. Could be just 25, but it could also be, 30 or 35, so.
All right, other discussion in particular about the 200,000 going in there?
One other question is, do you have the intention from this, of updating that playground? It'll take us to the 200,000, we accept we're looking for 100,000 we're gonna do an appropriation of 100,000 for that intention. Now, if they're successful in raising this, the
Yeah,
Littleton
Peter,
Children's.
no, I think we've confused the issue here, because the discussion last night about the castle and the trees just kind of came up. The real intention of this 200,000 is to fund the study for the turf fields. That's why this was done.
Okay, so this is a whole different issue.
Yeah.
That's
But-
just to identify, the same process could be applied.
Right.
I would say that the Board of Selectmen's willingness to support Article 6 as presented, even though, and to jump ahead a little bit, even though we know the cost of Article 7 is only going to be 100,000 instead of 2. The figure hasn't been finalized yet.
100,000 hanging out there.
Yeah, that the Permanent Municipal Building Committee will be meeting tomorrow night to finalize what the number is. Jeff Feehan told us last night it's going to be closer to 100,000 rather than 2. They
I
had
think you
two.
told Jeff it was going to be close to
Well, I asked
100,000.
him.
He said it was going to be between 1 and 2.
So it'll be, we had 2 proposals from different engineering firms. One was under 100, one was just barely 200. So we'll go with the low proposal. There's some other costs there, fudge factor. So Jeff said, we'll say 100,000. So Article 7 will only need 100,000, so there is another 100,000 that is in play, which could be used to, to go towards construction. If the Maytown meeting wanted to do that, it could go towards a playground, it could go for any other CPC
So this is just
eligible.
active recreation.
Active recreation, period. That's it.
And there's nothing that says that 100,000, I mean, the turf fields may not get voted either, right? Even that 100,000 that we're saying is going to go there, it may not go that way.
Article 6 is not contingent on Article
Right.
7 passing, so that if Article 6 passes, then we have 200,000 available for some unnamed recreation project, so.
So everybody understands.
Yeah,
Do you have anything regarding the PMBC on that? Do you have any other insight into that?
If Jeff told you last night it was going to be around 100,000, that's
Okay.
an
That's what
accurate
it's gonna
statement.
be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Craig, please.
Well, I would be very disappointed at town meeting if there isn't one heck of a lively discussion on Article 6. And while I understand the math to try to take advantage of a situation with the state, I would think that there'd be some town meeting lawyers out there that will want to know what the heck they're putting the money in there for to come back out. And I don't think we can answer, I don't think anybody can answer
Well,
that question.
we
right?
can't, except to say that that the money will only be expended from that fund with the
For-
approval of town meeting.
For active recreation.
For
For
active recreation. That is,
Yeah, as long as we have the ability to put that restriction on it.
we're saying it's
Like
going to be.
what you're saying.
It's going to
is
be for,
doable.
it's going to be for active recreation, that the future town meeting will only be able to spend it for active recreation, and it would take a vote of the
See.
town meeting to expend it, and yes, the gatekeeper on the recommendation
CPC.
is the CPC.
Right.
Then
Yes.
Article 13 becomes very important, the removal from town boards, so if they ever go rogue, we can now have a mechanism for throwing them off
I
and
wonder
putting
if that's
somebody else
caused.
on there.
I wonder if it's just cause, I bet
No,
not.
that isn't just cause, but when their term comes up, they
No.
get thrown out. So,
Well, we hope that the
Okay, no,
article
I-
that puts a FinCom member on the Community Preservation Committee will promote the level of communication that avoids
Change it to just
avoids
cause
anything like
instead of
that.
just cause. Just two little B and E.
okay.
All right.
I think it'll be a fun evening.
Any more discussion on Article 6?
I'll
Motion?
move that we vote to support Article 6 as
Second.
written.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
The Board of Selectmen did not take a vote on Article 7, the turf fields, because we haven't got the final number yet. And so there are two meetings that are going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. One is PMBC tomorrow night, when the number of, say, 100,000 will be finalized as what should be requested. Then there will be a meeting of the Community Preservation Committee the following week, which will vote on the funding application that the petitioners are submitting to CPC to access CPC funds for the artificial turf project. The Community Preservation Committee took a vote back at that joint meeting we had in September to find that the turf Fields project is eligible for CPA funding, so they took that first step. But the next step that they have not taken yet, because they don't have the final number in an application, is whether to in fact fund it from CPC, to vote to recommend funding it. If they don't recommend to fund it, then then the funding source for Article 7 would not be the Community Preservation Fund. It would need to be something else.
And the town would be on the hook to find the money for some other
Right.
source.
Well, and.
I mean,
You know, there's still 150,000 in mitigation funds.
No, and I'm just saying that.
But yes, it will-
200 would have gone into CPC.
Right. It won't be the,
It would be
right.
up to the town to fund it some other
If-
way, which
right.
is mitigation funds, but it is a situation that CPC holds that first vote.
They do, yes, they do.
But that vote will be before town meeting.
Yes, it will.
So
So
it's
we'll
not,
know.
you're gonna vote something at town meeting, then it's not gonna get funded.
We'll know how they vote at the meeting in October, and if,
Yep.
So, I mean, from our board standpoint, I mean, I think the Board of Selectmen were waiting to see whether it was 100 or 200,000 to get the final number. I mean, do we really need to do that? Does it really make any difference? I mean, I think our issues or our questions or discussions around this probably isn't gonna change whether it's 100,000 or 200,000 for the study. Is that fair?
The issue for me is not, it's whether or not we should be expending town funds for this particular project, knowing that then we've then got to come up with the rest of the 200 million. And I've,
2 million.
Or 2 million.
1 to 2.
yeah,
Yeah, 1 to 2.
reading something else.
We're doing the whole town.
That's right.
Yes, for sure.
But if you look at the list of capital projects that we're not going to be able to get to,
Yep.
Agreed.
and you start listing out what those things are, that comes up to 2 million, no, there's no justification for it.
Guess we'll leave that up to the voters.
Well, but we have to vote here, whether we.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's going
I
to be
think
up
we-
to the voters. I mean,
Right,
it's
yeah.
going to go before them.
Right.
But the recommendation from this board, I hope, carries some weight.
Right, agree. Well, what do we want to do?
Other discussion? Hang on just a second, I want to see if the board does first, though. But anybody else here want to say anything? Okay, go ahead.
So, I think my position is very similar to Alan. I'd say, even if you believe that this was a good project, which I don't, but, I mean, even if you, because the safety concerns seem to be a wash, the maintenance costs seem to be a wash, artificial fields probably are more available, so I'll give them that. But I think you can only expend design money if you're pretty confident that the town is going to approve the 2 million debt exclusion. And that has flown largely under the radar. And I think the proponents are hoping that people stay unaware of the alternative uses of the town money. I'm here to tell you that I only need 9 other signatures to get articles on the annual town meeting. I am fully prepared to propose a series of other capital debt exclusion articles to put it in people's face what the alternatives are. For example, $2 million debt exclusion override to start design and construction of a senior center. $2 million debt exclusion to continue to work on the roads. $2 million debt exclusion to fund all of our playground needs. While we're at it, how about $2 million to have a fund for the schools to that people can apply for to mitigate their fees, all the fees they pay. And since while we're at it, why not $2 million as an operational override for the schools to reduce class sizes? You know me, I would do that. And I think if that was on the list for the ballot in the spring, along with turf, there's no way turf is going to pass. So I think if you vote this 100,000, you're throwing it away because it ain't going to pass in the spring. Thank you.
Well, I had one other concern that came up last night, quite frankly, because my feeling after going through this quite a bit was kind of like where Chris was. It's like, well, it's a democracy and people want to do this. And if people are willing to vote a debt exclusion to go forward with it, if they can really get the people at the ballot to do it, it's one thing. But my concern last night was I heard the Board of Selectmen being in favor of using like some of that pilot money from the TIF and things like that to start funding this. And so now if it's coming out of the operating budget, then I'm totally against it. And so I didn't sleep real well last night thinking about it quite a bit, to tell you the truth. But
So-
if that really is the intention, and we're going forward with that, I don't know what other stuff is going to come down the road, and it should not come out of the operating budget.
How's it coming out of the operating budget?
Well, again, that's, if we talk about the TIF, then that's another, something that came up there, where some of the money we were getting some payment in lieu of, and so on.
We haven't talked about the TIF.
We haven't talked about it yet, right, in open session. So there's some money possibility there, and it was very clearly expected that some of that money would be used, could be used, and would be great to be used to partially fund the turf. And to me, that's coming right out of,
The TIF folks made a public presentation at one of the Board of Selectmen meetings, so,
Yeah,
all right, so it's not like it's a secret. They were on television.
yeah.
Okay.
it's
so-
further negotiations.
No, but
have
the
not been-
negotiations
They-
are still behind
Yeah,
closed
they
doors.
haven't. Their first proposal was public.
But regardless of what those numbers were in the actual TIF, again, to me, it was more the message that there's support there, and there's support to taking it out of operating fund money to do that, and that concerned me quite a bit.
Well, I'd always assumed that it would be a debt exclusion
Yeah.
when they first brought it in the door.
Right.
It was, you know, hard to imagine, not just for finances, but because of where it stands in the, you know, order of
And
priorities.
so it would be. In fact, what this board asked was for us to make sure that the information that went into the voter booklet indicated what the
Right.
total cost would be, so you can see on, if you've got the printouts, I can put it back up on the screen too, but I'm losing everything. But we did say for Article 7 that, no one, but I'll put it in.
Yeah, I think the concern was disclosure, make sure we're not, you know, you're buying this and then you find out later you're really getting that.
It does, yeah, that wording in there. But
So.
I'm not convinced, though, now that we would be going 100% for the cost of it to be debt exclusion, though, that some of it might be expected to come from other funds, and that concerns me quite a bit.
Well, how much latitude do we have there? Is this a technical vote? I mean, right now we have, are we giving the ability to expend those CPA funds?
No.
You don't know tonight,
No.
this board doesn't know tonight whether CPA funds are
Their
available
decision.
for Article 7 or not.
Right.
It's on that basis, the Board of Selectmen, we didn't know, number one, what the recommended amount would be. We'll know that tomorrow night. We don't know if CPA funds will be available or not. That will come a week from now. And so when the Selectmen meet again on November 3rd, they will have those two bits of information that will allow them to make an informed recommendation on Article 7. So they're going to wait for that.
Right, and there's nothing that says we can't vote at our, whenever the 6:30 meeting, the night of town meeting. We do that many times when we don't have information until the very last minute as to
Right.
whether we would support an article or
Right.
not. And we would have that information long before then. And I don't know whether we have.
What information?
You know, how much
Right, whether it's
it would
approved and how
be,
much and all that.
do the selectmen support it? Do the selectmen take a vote to
Support it, but it's still not going to say that the 100% will be funded by debt exclusion, because this doesn't say that, right? It says,
For
Well, yeah,
what?
we-
For the for
Yeah,
for
we haven't got to
construction?
that point yet, as far as how we're gonna fund the project,
This
right?
is design
Well, we
funding.
can-
I understand.
We will know on, we will know by November 3rd whether there's the opportunity to fund 100% of the design phase with CPA funds or not. We will know that because the CPA will either vote it thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right.
That's not my
Well,
concern.
what we won't know and can't know, we can't know until,
How much?
is the construction cost going to be funded by, entirely by debt service or something else? Debt exclusion? We don't know that. We don't know that now.
Well,
But what we do know is that under our policy, we need to have a debt exclusion vote in order to undertake the project. And we've had other projects like the track where we get the debt exclusion vote, and then we look to see whether there are ways that we can reduce the debt service cost by applying other funds. So,
And that's my
well,
concern.
having those numbers doesn't affect how I feel about the project. Whether it's a good project or bad project, it's not one that we, as a finance committee, should be recommending approval simply because there are competing needs that have been out there for a lot longer than this popped up, and they're, my way of thinking, much more important.
I mean, the way I look at it, though, are we voting to support the project, or are we voting to support the process of the funding and the application?
We
and
don't want
everything?
to,
You know, I mean.
I don't want to support the process of the funding because I don't want to support the project.
Okay, well, okay.
And
well,
if somebody votes to expend $200,000, chances are you're going to get the vote to expend the full $2 million. Because you've already spent $200,000, it's just thrown away if you don't come up with the other bucks. That's how it happens every time. We see it happen every time.
Yep. Agree.
I recommend no. I think the board should take the vote to not support Article 7. And I make that as my motion.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? I mean, there's still no town departments that are supporting this, right? Not the school committee or park and rec or maintenance or nobody's saying, yes, we should do this, right?
Everybody's keeping quiet.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to step up and say, no, this has to stop now.
I do think we need more information, but I wouldn't be personally prepared to vote no at this time. We've got a citizens-inspired proposal, and it's getting support from the selectmen at a certain level of putting the financing plan together, and without having given folks a chance to come in and make a pitch on the merit of the proposal again, I don't think anybody would be expecting us to vote no on this article because we don't support the greater project. We didn't telegraph that message earlier, so, I mean, go ahead and, we got a motion on the table, vote for it, but at this time, I prefer personally to see more information. So I'll be voting no on the motion.
No, that's okay. I'm just surprised. Why did you surprise me, Paul? That's all.
I mean, I agree with Paul. I mean, we don't have any solid numbers. We don't know if it's going to be approved. There's just so much is unknown. People feel strongly about the project, you know.
So, okay, but we don't have
so-
solid numbers. We don't know whether it's going to be, what,
I don't think we have anything to really vote on.
We don't have to take a position at this time at all, although we got a motion on the table.
Yeah, I
so.
mean,
Well,
okay.
I strongly disagree with both of
Right,
them.
that's fine.
Okay.
My motion's out there, so let's vote on
Okay.
it.
All right.
So what is your motion? To vote yes to disapprove it, or to vote no as
That
it's currently
we, to
worded?
recommend that the Finance Committee does not support Articles 7 or 8, whatever it is. So,
And Steve had seconded.
Okay.
Just, I know Fred said that you can vote at 6:30 in town meeting, but I think this is a big enough deal that usually we've done the 6:30 at, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You were halfway through, you might as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think the 6:30 at town meeting is not appropriate for a big enough thing. And in terms of not knowing that this was going to be a vote, I mean, geez, I showed up, I figured it out. I asked the chair when the next vote was, so. I love Alan's motion.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion to not recommend Article 7?
Aye.
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 How many was that? 3?
Four.
4, sorry. Did you say aye?
Yes, aye.
Okay. And then all opposed?
No.
No. Good.
Okay. Article passes, or the motion passes.
So is that 4-3?
4-2, I think,
4
right?
to 2.
4-3, 4-2.
I don't vote, do I?
No, you get to vote.
Yeah, you vote.
You don't have to.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna vote that.
Profile.
It's the chair voting here, what do we get?
I vote no. Or I vote, yeah, I vote, yes, we should not approve it.
So 5-2.
So it's 5-2.
You voted for the motion,
Yes,
not to recommend approval.
right.
Thank you.
There was some good discussion on that.
There'll be continued discussion, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's more, obviously more to come.
Okay. So that's that one.
The only other article is the tax increment financing, which we don't have a deal. We're still negotiating back and forth. If we come to one, we will march our little feet right into here and explain it to you and ask for your support, so.
And based on what I just said, just so
We're
you
not
know,
there, but we're not there yet.
what I learned at the end of last night's meeting, that some of that earmarking of money would not make me favorable. But other than that, there's a lot of good things about it, but
Well,
I know.
I don't, we operate without any
Right.
set criteria for TIFs.
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm not-
That's an issue,
Yeah.
and that's been brought up as well. Okay, so is that it for these
That's it.
open motions? And
That's it.
Okay.
I'm gonna go send it off to the printer.
All right,
I won't put the
Okay,
name,
I think it's a good
the five,
review.
the 5 names, we'll put those in.
That's fine.
We don't put what, we just put that, it says Finance Committee does not recommend Article 7, is how it will read.
Put that
you're
in
very
cap.
public record, it's okay.
Red, how about red?
And red, no, it's a black and white document. So. Red would actually cost extra.
Oh, we don't want that, we don't want that.
Don't expend any extra funds.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Moving right along, just wanted to talk about the all-day meeting. I guess we still have another meeting before that, but I just the body and published it. So we thought we would just spend a minute and just go over it so people understand what's there. And is Park and Rec still on this one, Bonnie, or did we
No,
change it?
this has been adjusted to reflect some requests for changes.
Hey, I got a problem with that right up there. I mean, we've had members not be able to make it, and that's the way it goes. And with recreation, so Kate can't make it, well, she got a 5-member board. Somebody there can do it, it's a good staff underneath her. It's beginning to erode, I mean, if you start to allow that, then it, starts to
Oh, I didn't even
disintegrate.
notice that, they're not even
Yeah,
coming.
and, well, I would suggest
Well,
that
you're-
it's put on the agenda.
You're on the email chain, Chris. You did know about it, because I asked you. I said, should we just move them to another date? And you said yes. 'Cause I asked you
Is that the
specifically
email I didn't
to
get
be
back?
liaison to them.
That must have been the email I didn't-
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just went to him, because he
Yeah,
was the
you did.
liaison, so I said, you're the liaison, so
yeah.
what do you want to do?
I misinterpreted that. I thought they were coming to this meeting and on the 28th, as well as the budget, books went out or whatever, and that, that sort of what was going on with that, not as the all-day session. I didn't register it as that they were not coming to the all-day session, so I
That was the whole
apologize for
purpose
that.
of the
So,
message, because they're having the turkey
But
trot that day.
historically, they've been the group that goes outside the process to make requests, at odd times during the year, if anybody should be there at the
Plus,
day.
we got
let them
that
know.
subsidy that's, the operating subsidy
Right.
that, every year is,
An issue.
a big issue, and it
Right.
kind of bounces around every year, and what is it now, 100 and something?
Well, with the capital items,
Yeah,
it's
and
about
the other
100,
ones,
but-
the clerk and IT, I know in the past, when we've had people couldn't make it, someone else will cover it for them, yourself. I mean,
Right.
that's fine. In any of these people who can't make it that day, I think their budget ought to be discussed, somebody there should be there to present it, and if they want a follow-up, then fine, schedule, come on into another, the next meeting. And I just noticed two that I thought should be on the list there too. PMBC, not an operating budget, but a lot of the warrant articles in the capital project, there should be somebody in from.
They are.
They are? Oh, what is it? Oh, yeah, okay, well, good. I missed that one. Thank you. And then we have water department. We don't have light department. I know we don't approve their budget, but they do have financial articles that go before the town, and it's as good a time as any to have.
LWD.
And I know they operate on a different
Oh.
schedule, huh? That's water department.
Oh, I see. You're talking about the light department.
Light department, right.
So we're gonna have them to-
Just, and we're not trying to, I'm not trying to assert any more authority over them, but it's just a great time to get the, picture of where the finances are at, how they work. As much as anything, this is an educational process for the town, for the other boards, and
Yep.
how everything works, but those are my only quibbles.
Okay, so two things, for the Park and Rec, I mean, we can still have them come in on the 28th, and so Kate can do her presentation to us anyway, and we could still have her request to have somebody come, or have you, or whomever she chooses.
what I can do is, I think doesn't the turkey trot event get over?
I'm sure it's early afternoon,
So
right,
I
or
can put
morning
them
or
on
something,
last,
right?
just.
I've got a 5-person elected board, somebody should be able to.
Right.
But it's a theory behind the 15th wasn't for us to absorb everything in one day. It was for the other departments to be, if they chose, to sit one time and listen.
See what
to
everybody else is doing,
everybody
too.
else is doing. So I think I'm right with you now.
Right.
PNBC is in black and white
It's
right
okay.
there.
It's all right.
Well, it was in a jumble.
Right.
A big pile of them. Okay, I will make that request to Kate and see if she can get a board member, or maybe there'll be some available by that time in the day.
Okay, all right.
And the other departments too?
Yeah, I'll talk, last year I covered IT, because Nancy has some hockey games typically this time of year with her kids, and she's in Vermont, actually, at this particular.
They gave up a $1,000 teaching class to me here one year, so.
So I've covered her, I've met with her in the past and kind of gone through her line items to make sure that I have an understanding of everything.
But again, if she wants to come in and see us again after, no problem.
Yep. Okay. I will update this and email it out.
Okay, yeah, that's very good.
I had a question. On the budget requests that are due back on 31st, does the school department submit one of those, or are they exempt from that?
I gave it to them, so
But
I'm
they're-
hoping that I will have some
Past
numbers.
practice has been, they don't participate?
Past practices, I will usually get a capital list fairly close to that deadline, but not a budget request.
I believe Pete and I have them this year, and my intention, Pete, we gotta talk about scheduling, is to get in there and have friendly conversations and try to get as much information out of them as early as possible. I know what you guys went through before, yeah.
Well, there's just no transparency there. I mean, you just, Brian, of course, left, but last year we just got a copy of the budget projection. It was like, oh, well, here you go. It's just lacking anything, and there's no detail to it at all. And I think, obviously, they're the largest department in town. They're 44%, according to my numbers, right off the top. And when you figure debt, health insurance, and retirement, you're 75% of the town's money.
I
And
can't disagree with you on
their-
any of that. They got new faces on their side of the table.
Their
Hopefully we-
budget is submitted in March, 5 months after we do ours. As I've sent some emails around, other districts, every school district I work for has submitted a budget book, which labels how many teachers you have, teaching assistant, nurses, I mean, just labels everything that you have out there. And so issues of the Boston Business Journal with, our salaries jumped from 69,000 to 80,000 in a year we had no COLA and no steps and nobody noticed. All those sorts of things. Same thing when I was at the public budget hearing last year and asked the question of FTEs from one year to the next. It was kind of like, how dare you ask a question like that at this meeting? Because they didn't have any detail. There's just no detail of anything that goes on in the school department, and I just think that's an issue because
It is. Can you do me the favor of forwarding me a list of appropriate questions?
Yeah.
Peter and I
just,
will,
and I mean, I don't know whether we somehow put them on the schedule to bring them in to discuss their budget.
Well, they're in here.
They're in there.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the all-day session, they come in, they're just like,
We'll try to.
5 months away.
Just gotta give these guys a chance.
We're gonna try to give a chance to do better than that. I've had a conversation with the chair a while back about why it would be in their interest to show more. I mean, they have the protection of having a lot more
Yeah.
freedom under the law. They don't even have to live by the budget they show, so why not show one,
Well, as well as they signed a new 3-year contract, we don't know what the ramifications are of that, right? What that's gonna cost us on top of their normal steps and lanes that they get every year. So, I mean, there's just a lot going on with school finances and the
I would welcome, I'm
no.
sure Peter would too, a
So,
list of suggested things that we should be asking for. I don't disagree with any of that, Chris, and I'll try to, get them to show as much of that as early as possible.
This is actually a year to be proud.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
Right.
very good, positive
And, yeah,
things. that just
absolutely.
happened.
I don't wanna come down, as being critical of the school department. I just think there's a lack of any sort of detail of what's going on.
No denying that.
Right.
And when you see things that, get published or whatever, I mean, nobody knows because there's nothing to fall back on. We're just kind of left in the dark. And everything that goes on, we give them their appropriation and off they go.
If we go into attack mode, they're going to entrench, but this is
Right.
an opportunity
Well,
to
yeah.
showcase a
There's no reason,
positive.
right, exactly.
Right, so I don't want to, we don't want to attack them, but I just think that we just, as I've said before, we just kind of got to reel them back in to be more involved in what goes on with their budget process.
Okay, very good. Okay, the castle and the trees, we don't need to talk about that, right? Because
No,
that's
that
gonna
went
stay.
away.
There was
Went
discussion,
away?
well, there was discussion about, while they were there doing the other work on the site, should they just take it down because there were some compliance issues? But it was discussed by the Park and Rec and everybody else, they just want to leave it up. So a lot of people really love it and use it, and so they're gonna leave it there until fundings are available to do something else.
Well,
Right, and incorporate it.
if the issue had gone forward, and my bigger concern was raised last winter, which suggested this was not an emergency, is the whole use of reserve fund. I mean,
Right.
I'm not sure what our
Yep.
policy says about it, but the
Right.
Mass Finance Committee's, Finance Committee
Yeah.
handbook, it says black and white.
Unforeseen.
It couldn't be more clear, just so, the way it was handled at the selectmen meeting before is like, well, there's nothing prevents you from requesting, true, but people ought to understand that the rule is reserve fund transfers should be used only for truly unexpected contingencies and not to compensate for inadequate budgeting, sloppy management, or predictable spending fluctuation. This is, so.
Well, not to throw us under the bus on that, but that brings up that legal fees.
Oh, I know,
I think
I
that
don't
would
think
be
that was right either.
categorized as inadequate budget.
Yeah.
Not to
I
throw
mean,
money under the bus.
I acknowledge that while voting for it, and I don't think that was right either.
Yeah, so.
Okay, good, that's a good point.
So,
Okay.
I'm trying to discourage those requests from coming
Yes.
to us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, other updates for us, Bonnie.
Sure, I did provide just a budget summary here to give you an idea of where we stand at this point for the 2016 operating budget and the 2015, balance, and before we set the tax rate. We are heavily entrenched in the process right now of getting the tax rate work done to be certified for the classification hearing.
When does that due? Isn't it like due in like November or December?
Yeah, we have
or
our
something?
hearing, I think, the 17th of November.
Is there a state law you have it certified by a certain date or something?
There's not a law when you need to have it certified. You need to have your tax bills out
By a certain
by the
date.
end of December with the actual rate, or you need to file for an extension for another estimated bill, which we've never done, and I have no intentions of
Okay, I need
ever
some
doing.
sort of time frame on it.
But yeah, there's no deadline. I like to get it done as early in November as possible because DOR gets backed up with requests from
Yeah, right,
350
Get it
and
in
other
early, right.
communities too. So we are in the middle of dealing with all of that right now. It looks like we're going to hit our target for new growth of the 600,000 that we had in the budget. We're like eking along on it, so we should be.
And that's based on the point opening?
It's what
or-
was in place as of January 1st of 2014, so that's kind of how we calculate
Okay.
by the statutes.
Okay.
You expect the revenue line item to change here then?
No.
You don't?
No, I think we're going to hit the target that we had, barely.
Okay.
And it's from the point, it's from, other projects in town, additional housing that's come on, it's new growth. For 15, we have, 750 programmed in there. We might need to tweak that a little bit going forward, depending on the progress that we make in the next month. So I'm, confident that we're fine for 2015. 16, we still have some more work to do. I do have some estimates in here on the school appropriation based on discussions that we had with the school department last year.
Isn't it the standard 500,000 every year?
No, it varies year to year. We had discussed 500,000 last year.
Well, last year with the whole thing with the circuit breaker
Right.
and that whole debacle that happened and back and forth.
So this is a preliminary estimate based on those conversations that Mr. Fontanella was involved in also, so he's aware of that. We've got estimates, obviously, on the tech school assessments and other state assessments, so we'll continue to work those through the 2016 process. Very conservative revenue projections, so as we typically do. The operating budget and capital requests are due at the end of the month. I'm hoping to get all of them into one electronic document for you so that you're not, and I'll put it out as soon as I can thereafter. I will still do the books for you so you have something to actually look at while you're in the budget meetings, but I think it'll be helpful
The
to
important thing is
have.
the books is the week before.
Yes, you'll have.
Not the day of, you'll have the week before. Sorry, but.
No.
Well, it's a lot to put together, you feel
It is,
bad for
it's a lot.
them to try and,
So,
so.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but I'm hoping to have it all in one electronic document, so you can kind
Okay.
of flow through in the
Okay.
UMass format for it, so it should be easier to navigate.
UMass format, is that what you said?
UMass.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
All right, just up on the revenue side, Bonnie, the undesignated fund balance, why is that off by close to $300,000 from?
Because we had an additional amount plugged in for this particular year for the roadway plan for 2015, which we don't in the following year. We did it as a one-time because we knew we had Neshoba and New Estate and another N.
I was going to say, would this number be higher if we weren't spending money this fall at the special?
No.
No.
Nope.
All right. And the additions to stabilization, that's significantly smaller too. What's that based on?
The stabilization fund.
It's a 75% cut there.
Oh, it's based on the operating budget level, so it's purely the 5% minimum that we keep, so it's, if the operating budget doesn't go up as much, the spending doesn't go up as much, then the amount to keep on deposit.
Right, so you already have a
Right.
5% built in, that's on
Right.
top of the 5%, right?
This
It's
is
to
just.
keep you at
It's
5%.
to keep us at 5%. So we've got the interest calculations that we're estimating.
We were
we're
trying to
getting for
get
stabilization.
more of that for the capital stabilization as well. Is there any funding for that in here? or-
Yeah, I do have, I believe, 50,000 plugged in there.
Where is that? Is that a different line item? Must be.
It's under the capital plan and warrant articles.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep.
All right. Last question then, for me anyway, what was I looking at? The debt service, now it's dropping from FY15 to FY16, right?
Yes,
So the differential is going where?
into the capital planning, the amount available for capital planning.
Yeah, right, went from
If you look at the
1.4
capital plan
to
amount.
1.9?
Yes,
That's capital planning for new spending though, right?
right.
Right,
So,
which is what happens with the.
so when the
right.
debt service gets
Rolls
reduced, we
off.
push it up to the capital planning.
Yeah, the difference is 500,000.
Right, I mean, just the decision seems to be made in these projections that it would go to new spending and not toward old debt.
Well, no, it's not. We're not making that assumption. We're saying that it's available for capital plan and warrant articles, one-time spending.
Right.
So you could apply it through the warrant article to reduce,
Okay, well, that just needs to be made clear as we go forward in that
yes,
process.
absolutely is available for that. It's just not, it's captured so it doesn't flow into the operating.
Right.
So that is that. I did update also after that.
Can I just ask, because you had talked one point about possibly putting this additional stabilization fund for, specifically for long-term debt or for?
Your debt
But-
stabilization.
Yeah, debt stabilization.
We took that off the fall town meeting warrant because we knew that we needed some more discussion through the
Okay.
financial policies group
Okay.
before we
Okay.
put that in there. I put it out for discussion, but we did pull it back.
Okay, all right.
I did update the budget calendar, and I inserted the meeting dates that Betsy you had forwarded to me. Next week, I have the 5-year revenue and expense projections. I should have all of my assessment information done by then with growth and maybe some preliminary value information on both the commercial and residential stock. So that'll be more relevant then. And I'll just basically give an overall view of the finances over the next 5 years as we see them at this point. Other than that, like I said, I dropped in the dates that you had provided me. I know that there'll be more dates, forthcoming when you change dates or set new meeting dates, and we'll just drop them in.
Things actually look pretty stable. Is there anything that jumps out at you that you caught as, that caught your eye as an anomaly?
In the budget worksheet?
Yes.
Well, the debt service is, everything is kind of working in the way that we have planned, in that everything gets captured and moved when there's a blip like that. the unknowns are, I don't know what the tech school assessment's going to do. I don't know what the enrollment is over there yet. So that's kind of one that when it swings, it's about 20,000 a student, so it's, a couple of students is a big swing.
Oh, it's 20K a kid?
About that when you average it out, yeah. And that's actually, I should qualify that with, Neshoba's like the lowest per pupil cost in the state.
Yeah, right.
It's like you go to Minuteman and it's 30,000.
Yeah,
So
double.
they're a very good value as far as technical
Good
schools
bang
go.
for the buck, right?
No, but I didn't have an appreciation for the variation
Yeah.
per child.
Yeah, it's-
Suddenly it adds up.
Yes, it's a big difference. So there's that, that figure out there. The school department, that's another variable, a big variable.
Do we still have the kids at Minuteman? Or one
Yeah,
or
the
two
two kids.
or some program?
I think one is
Years
going
ago.
to go out maybe this coming cycle, no. One is going to go out next year, and I think the following one, 2 years after that.
Okay,
They're-
okay. So we have at least one more year.
Yeah.
So they're obviously built in the
Yes.
675?
Yes, they are.
How come school department reserve 750, 750? Didn't it change because they took more on circuit breaker this year?
They voted to spend $750 last year, knowing that they were going to need to spend at least $1 million.
This
So-
year?
I'm sorry, they voted it last year for this year. So they voted the $750. They
Yeah.
will plan on spending the $1 million as they required from whatever they got in.
That's in 16 or is that in 15?
It's in 15.
Right, okay, so that's really not 750, it's gonna be $1 million then, right?
It's going to be $1 million.
And, yeah, all right, it's 750 projected for 16?
That's just a starting estimate.
Right. Yeah, and then that's back to what I was saying earlier, is
Right.
if that's all labeled out there, you see the activity every year and you know what's going on. I'm looking at these numbers, I don't know what's going on, you know. Anyways.
Yep.
Another point to make is, Needham Public Schools, they put out a 574-page school budget booklet. 574 pages.
That's overkill.
Yes, which is ridiculous.
Right.
But we got, I had some
Someplace
issues
in
with
between.
Wayland, it was 36 pages, and they have since went to like 75, which, as Alan said, is just overkill. It's the same numbers, just, charts and everything like that, but again, if that detail's out there, of what goes on with, especially with the reserves.
You see with the other towns that the schools are more, that they're scheduling, they're more with the town budget cycle, or they're still
Oh, definitely.
pretty separate?
Oh, without a doubt, in my experience with the district I work with, is the school department and school committee work directly with the finance committee on their budget and their appropriation and everything that goes on, like, they're involved, our committee's involved 100%. And I feel like we're just kind of spectators of the whole thing,
All right, well,
so. But
something to aspire to then, huh?
keep harping on the school department.
And I will, if you guys want, I will email you the detail sheets that go with this, that roll up to the summary sheet, so you can see the line items and the revenue.
You know, that, for those who,
Yep.
like myself, who forget things once in a while, at least,
Yep.
it shows you what items go under what category
Right.
sometimes too. Well, I'm not always sure about what goes under local receipts as opposed to other available funds, so.
Yeah. I'll email it out. I hate to print them because they're so small, you can't even read them in there. Probably 20 tabs on my Excel spreadsheet. It's easier to click between the tabs. Let's see, so that's the 2016 budget. We're on target so far, and hopefully I'll have everything out to you well before a week before the meeting.
And the departments are doing fine so far?
Yeah, I've been meeting with
You've been through
them.
the same process now a couple of years, so, right? A little bit easier?
We've got a lot of new people.
Okay.
We've got a new fire department.
Mhm.
Still getting used to the budget process. Library is under some change now.
Again?
Just as an update on my own department, I've got my collector who's retiring. I've got an assessor or assistant assessor who will be retiring in the next few months. I've got a new assessor. So it's busy. It's a lot going on, but everybody's doing well, and we'll get through it. So, but we are meeting with all of the departments. So, Park and Rec too. That's another there's a lot going on there.
Okay, thank you. My next agenda item was a TIF update, but it's still under negotiation, so there's really not too much I can say other than,
Do we have a time frame on that, or what's,
on the TIF?
yeah, the meeting?
Yeah, before time
Meeting. Drop dead date.
They want to move fast, the company that is coming in here, they want to.
And the intent is to be able to go to town meeting with the details already in place, so that you
Someone will
could-
have to present that, obviously, then, right?
Right. Exactly, so that town meeting knows what they're voting on.
Which hasn't always been, in the past, sometimes, they voted just to authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate, so you're not going back and forth there, right?
Right, we will go with an agreed upon
Plan.
set of terms.
It's not, so you know, people know the details.
Right.
Good.
Okay, Policies and Procedures Committee, again, finally getting our act together a little bit, but in order to get everybody together, we had to wait till November, so we're gonna wait till November. And we'll kick that off and get started. My intention, and I'll get some things out to people ahead of time, is that we really make that a working session, though, enough of the high-level talks, right? Time to get down to it.
Yeah, and my experience last year is it's gonna be hard to get us all together.
Right, yeah, I know, just the first one, though.
Yeah.
The first one, though, we should get them all together, and then we'll, definitely, I agree.
Struggling with an all-day Saturday session.
There you go.
You want policies and procedures?
10 individual
Oh,
meetings,
man.
frankly.
I don't know, not all day, I don't know, we'll see.
Financial guidelines?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question on that. When, through your discussions, you arrive at the decision to make some recommended changes, will those come for a review
Yes.
by this board before they go to the Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
Because I keep seeing things on the Board of Selectmen's agenda that looks like changes to the financial guidelines.
We haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Well,
I
it
don't-
was, the OPEB was the last one.
But we did
They
see
brought
that one.
OPEB to us,
we did see that one.
with Steve,
Well,
right?
yeah,
Didn't
yeah, we did, yeah, Steve brought it.
We
here.
saw it.
Yeah, yeah, we saw it in
And
the
I
Policies and Procedures Committee.
provided you in the packet tonight, just the approved one from last
Right.
night.
So FinCom as a whole didn't see it.
Right.
No, we did not, that's why I raised the
Yeah.
issue.
Didn't discuss it.
That's right, yeah, we didn't.
I don't-
And that's the second time that's happened in the last 3 months.
Yeah, he's right.
So I wanted to be sure that we,
Yeah, and that wasn't what we were sitting down to discuss, but it was brought to us, and I forget what the reason was why
Yeah.
in such a hurry.
Well, it was last minute for the meeting, and Steve just presented this to us, and then they had it on a select meeting, and they approved it, and it never came in front of the.
since our chair chairs that committee, I wanted to make sure that my chair understood that I expected to see those recommendations before the Board of Selectmen go voting on them.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I missed that one. I had in my mind that they had
That's
come
our
here
bailiwick.
too.
But we didn't know the Board
Right.
of Selectmen had voted on it. That's news to me, anyway.
Well,
Knew that's where it was headed, but here and there was where the.
then I'll pass that recommendation out to the finance director also.
I'm just looking at the policy too, and it says that under that OPEB policy, that it didn't change. And the policy review process has been the same since it's been implemented. But that the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Light Commissioners must annually approve it. Or any changes to the policy must be approved by the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Light Commissioners. So maybe as the policy
That's not the
review
same one
committee,
we're
we
talking
can
about, is
add.
it?
No, it is, the OPEB one. Steve really brought it to the Policies and Procedures Committee because he at least wanted to do that piece
Right.
of it. And that was his
Right.
attempt to broaden it a bit. But it doesn't say that in there, that it has to be done.
Right. We can
But-
change it.
But we can, but again, I think if just as long as we know now that we really should bring things here that we can get that to happen.
Right.
And I apologize. In my mind, we had come here too, but I got the two mixed up, obviously, so I apologize for that. Okay. Anything else?
Minutes.
Minutes?
Minutes? Everybody read the minutes, and I made some changes. I don't know if anybody else did or not, but,
Nobody else was that
okay. Motion?
Move that we accept the minutes
October 7th.
at 7.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Good meeting.
And motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right,
We woke him up.
all right. Thanks, everybody.
Bruins and baseball.
You need,